Բարի երեկո սիրելի արտանգիստներ, ինչպես ամեն շաբաթ երեկո կմիանանք յուղի եթերով, այսօր պիտի ունենանք կարևոր հաղորդաշարը, մեր հյուրերն են երկու ճանաչված անձնավորություններ եւ հաղորդումի մեկ մասը պիտի փորձենք հայերենով թարգմանել, բայց մեծամասնությունը կարծես թե անգլերենով իրելա, որովհետեւ մեր հյուրը հայերեն չի գիտեր, իսկ մյուսը գիտե։ Մեր առաջի հյուրն է իմ գողքից նստած Johnny Achi. Welcome to the Armenian channel one more time.
Good to be back.
Ara manoogian. Ես նախ ծանոթացնեմ Ջանին ով գլա, Ջանին գլա Սուրիայի ակտիվիստներն մեգա Ամերիկայի մեջ Arab Americans for Syria օրգանիզացիոնի ղեկավարներ են, որ բավականին մեծ կորձրած է Սուրիո ժողովրդի համար ջանցնելու ճշմարտությունը ինչ կդառնա եւ ինչ կգադարվի որ տերորիստական ակտերը եւ լալով Քրիստոնյա արաբը ունեցած են ասկարաչ մեր հյուրը. Thank you for coming to the Armenian channel one more time and to speak to the Armenian people in English language, but regardless it's still Armenian community.
Absolutely.
I would like to, the last first I interviewed you was about 2 years ago. It was about 2013
yes.
February. The war wasn't that strong yet.
Yeah.
It wasn't that boiled yet. Unfortunately, as the years went through, we see more terrorism and more takfiri instigations that is taking place right now. Where are we standing? Where is the government of Syria standing, and where are the people of the Syrian standing as Syrian?
Since 2011, I mean, we're coming next month to the 4th anniversary
right.
of this very sad crisis. As for Syrians, nothing has changed. From day one, we've been saying, I've said it on your show 2 years ago, and I say it last year when I was again on the show, and I say it again on the show. What the West has been trying to portray as a civil war in Syria is nothing more than a terrorist invasion. The Syrian people from day one has said a civil war would mean we're all fighting each other. The big cities have never fought. People in Damascus right now live, Muslims and Christians, and there's more mosaic of people to, if there was a civil war, this is where you need to be fighting. In right. Damascus, where everybody is a mix. On the contrary, I'm a Christian, I live in a Muslim community. My community, my neighbors will protect me from the Takfiris group if they do enter Syria. The big cities have always been safe until Aleppo, until right. 2012. It was very safe, like Damascus. And those are the 5 million people live in Aleppo and 5 million in Damascus. There was never an incident until Aleppo was invaded by NATO. Mm-hmm. When 30,000 fighters came through Turkey and invaded Aleppo, that's when you had the civil war.
Right.
Between the Aleppos, okay, Armenians, some Christians, but 90% who fought these were Sunnis, Muslims. So a civil war would mean people fighting people because of either sectarian or ethnic background. No, there's no such thing in Syria. What's happening in Syria is Takfiri groups, foreign invasion of jihadists entered the country, and the Syrian Arab army with locals are fighting back. That's why you only see it at the borders. Mm-hmm. Why only the fight is in the north and the south? Because those are your two enemies, Israel in the south, Turkey is in the north, and this is where the jihadists are being facilitated into Syria. Mm-hmm. And that's where the fight is taking place. So for us, nothing has changed. Yes, IS has become much bigger, Nusra Front has become much bigger, with the support of the West and NATO countries to destabilize Syria. This is where we need to be concentrating. The whole idea is the destabilization of Syria, of course, regime change. We all know that Obama would like to get Bashar Assad out of office, just like Obama wanted to get right. Saddam Hussein out of office. That's no secret that they would like to change the regime change. However, do we have to sleep with Al-Qaeda to change regimes in the world? This is the question we need to ask ourselves as American citizens. Is Al-Qaeda a friend or foe? And then when we discuss a little bit further, we can discuss really that item, because the United States is supporting these jihadist groups in Syria, but they don't want them to come back here. They just want them to stay and destabilize this country. But we've talked about it in the show. You can't grow a monster big enough. It's going to come back and bite you. We've been talking about it. We see it now happen in Europe. And I still think it's going to happen here in the United States.
All these wars are going on to change the regime, apparently so-called regime that is apparently dictatorship, even though most people I see are standing with the regime right now for some reason. I don't know if it's a dictatorship. They would have voted him out. But let's suppose it's a dictatorship, and let's suppose they were trying to liberate the people into giving them democracy and freedom. But this is costing lives of people that the same people that they're willing to free. They're killing those people. Can we elaborate a little bit on this?
Of course. Let me ask you a question. Our neighbors, north and south,
right?
They have an expansionist policy. Does Syria has an expansionist policy? No. Has Syria ever invaded any country? No. Has Lebanon ever invaded? Has Palestinian ever invaded? No. We have one in the north, and they have invaded the Middle East completely, and they want to relive the legend of the Ottoman Empire. There is no secret they would like to take over northern Syria and Aleppo, as was one of the biggest and most economic, city in the Middle East. The south is the same thing. We don't speak of anything. Israel has talked about Ara's Israel, or the Greater Israel, which encompasses all of Syria. So we've got a north and a south entities that would like to destabilize Syria and take over Syria. The Syrian people are not in needing of democracy. They need to go back to where they had, which was nothing more than security and stability. In 2010, Bedros, just before this crisis had begun, Syria was living its best days ever. Right. Anybody who tells you about political prisoners is lying through his teeth. There was probably, you can't count them on two hands, the political prisoners. There are probably more political prisoners in Western countries than there was in Syria. Syria was opening up to the world. Syria, yes, had one problem, and it is an energy transit route. When you are in an energy transit route, the whole world wants you. Why Turkey and Qatar are supporting the jihadists and the Muslim Brotherhood? What's Qatar and Turkey have to do with each other? Qatar has the gas. Turkey wants that pipeline to go through Syria, to go to the Europe and eliminate the monopoly of the Soviet Union. Big words, but this is the truth. In 2009, when Syria refused to allow that pipeline, this is when we started having problems. Absolutely. They befriended Syria. Turkey befriended Syria out of nowhere. Turkey is an invader of Syria. Turkey has occupied territory that belongs to Syria. The Hatay region, all of south of Turkey, that's Syrian territory. Same thing with Israel, has occupied Syrian territories. So they befriended Syria. Qatar befriended Syria. Saudi Arabia befriended Syria. Only two come back and stabbed us in the back. And so Syria was living its best days. People don't know what martial law meant. Yes, we had martial law in 1968, and it took 5 minutes for the president to abolish martial law. Has people's lives changed? Not one bit. So anybody who tells you that Bashar Assad's dictatorship, look around the rest of the Middle East and show me a true democracy. At least Syria had a parliament election. Yes, Syria was coming out of, we were under the French colonization for so long. And before that, the Ottoman Empire for 400 years. Yes, we're a new country, but we were opening up. The life in Syria was excellent. People were living in peace. It was the 4th safest country in the world. Why would anybody want to change that? So there was no personal, yes, people wanted more reform, more political freedom, and we were getting that in the beginning. But to go out and try to fight your own army, that's not called freedom or democracy. When the West portrayed that what's going on in Syria is a free Syrian army versus a killer army, that was a lie. There was no free Syrian army. There were a bunch of thugs and people who sold their country to people who paid them money and weapons. The Syrian army is the true army that is defending all of Syria against jihadists. And this is the only person in the Middle East who's fighting terrorism for real, is the Syrian army led by President Bashar Assad.
Even the flag of the Free Syrian Army, you see, it's a French mandate, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not even the real Syrian flag.
Look, everything was manufactured. A so-called Arab Spring isn't manufactured. Right. Nothing was spontaneous. A revolution would be spontaneous from the people. When they put a date on it, they said March 15, 2011, let's go out. Before that, it was actually February 7, then February 20-something. Nobody showed up. You cannot put a date like a kickoff football game, It needs to be spontaneous. Nobody went out to the street. You bring out a flag that is for the French mandate. What's wrong with this flag? This is the Syrian flag, been way before the Ba'ath Party. This is our flag when we were, we had in 1950 unification with Egypt, and the two-star represents Syria and Egypt. So when you manufacture a revolution, when you manufacture purposes to invade the country, first thing we start seeing, the army is killing its people. We never saw evidence of that until today. Every massacre that took place in Syria, from the Hula to Taramis to Karm al-Zaytun, they were all made by the same Takfiri groups. We knew from day one because we know the composition of the killed people. Either were Sunni who backed up by the Syrian government, or they backed the Syrian government, or other sectarians. So in other words, briefly, let me tell you, everything was manufactured about this. The slogans were manufactured. And the West and the media made it look so much bigger than what it is. They never covered that millions were going out in support of the government, in support of reform programs. They only showed you the few hundreds that were protesting in rural areas, which we in Syria never saw them. We just saw them on TV like the rest of the world. So they made it much bigger than what it is, and it truly is a regime change backed up by the West, and this is what it led to today.
If I can ask a question, because Johnny, you said that the problem started in 2009 because they wouldn't agree with this pipeline with Turkey and Qatar. But prior to Turkey and Qatar going in, there's some strong indicators, and there's actually some videos of our own Congress representative here, Adam Schiff, I believe in 2003, where he was comparing King Hussein of Jordan and Bashar al-Assad as King Hussein both being incidental kings, he referred to them as, and he said where King Hussein is good, Bashar al-Assad is not. This is 2003. So obviously there must have been some plan back then to overthrow them. They may not have had the cooperation at that time of Turkey and Qatar. Can you tell us a little bit about when it really started as far as the West?
Of course.
Because apparently it was before.
Even before 2000, even before the assassination of Rafiq Hariri in Beirut, 2005, but way before then. It's no secret that the United States want to topple the Syrian regime. And the reason he said King Hussein was good and Bashar al-Assad was bad, because one is pro-America, pro-West, the other one is not. The choice of the people, we're a sovereign nation. Okay, we choose to be a sovereign nation. We're the only pretty much sovereign nation in the Middle East, if you want to really think about it. Everybody belongs to somebody. Okay, Syria was debt-free. Syria didn't owe any money, didn't have International Monetary Fund ruling Syria. We chose to go east, yes, because the West took the side of our enemy. When the whole West took the side of Israel, and we have 2 million today Palestinian refugees, we had to turn east. So yes, we turned east for building our army. Yet, we're a sovereign nation. When they wanted to go and pass those pipelines, Syria said, no, we went with Iran and Russia, our natural, historical allies. No one can force you to go with whomever you want to go. Now, as Seymour Hersh said in 2006, it says that the West is planting these terrorist groups, mercenaries, planting them in these Arab regimes' country where they want to overthrow. This is a Pulitzer Prize winner twice. Seymour Hersh, in 2006 in the New Yorker magazine. You can look it up. So it's not a secret. Way before 2003, way before 2000, way before Bashar al-Assad came into power, there is a change, a regime change. They haven't been able to do it because the Syrian people are nationalist people. We believe in, being sovereign nation. We don't want to belong. We don't want to be a puppet like other regimes in the name. What's Saudi Arabia? What is Qatar? Take the military bases out of Qatar. There's no Qatar. More Americans live in Qatar than there is Qatar. So how does Qatar want to dictate a country like 7,000 years old like Syria and tell it about democracy? There was nothing in Qatar where Syria had civilization. In other words, the Syrians people are Syrians prior to religions. And that's why Syrians will never fight. And that's why I will tell you that Syrians will rebuild, because the people who were fighting are not Syrians. Most Syrians were Syrians before Islam, before Judaism, before Christianity. We were all Syrians, and we will remain Syrians regardless of what you bring. We're going to kick these foreigners out, and we're going to continue to be, and we're going to continue to rebuild. This is not the first time that Damascus was destroyed or Syria was destroyed. We've been around for 10,000 years. We will continue to be around, and we're going to continue to live in harmony like we've always lived.
Let's take a phone call. You're on the air.
Okay. This is Bedros Hajian.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, you are right. Yes, I was with you also, guys. I defend with you also with 3 years. I beat jihadists from here. I'm with Bashar forever. I love Bashar forever. Because Bashar is the best.
Can you say it in Armenian so we can translate it in English? Yete hayalen ısık ben anklerin de tatlarım.
Okay, so yes, Bashar'ın çok garevole var. Yek darini çiftke problem aslen ina Suriye'den panagın.
Hayır, Suriye'den panagın gahakta.
Hayır, yeken fakat aslen ina. Yani senin zavcı. Ensezirlere zavcı. Rahmet.
Şunu ragalcı. He's praising Bashar al-Assad because he's been fighting for 3 years and has overcome all the. It's basically small World War III is going on. All the political regimes are there fighting each other. That's what it looks like, and at the cost of people. People are dying left and right. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. At the cost of people.
Can I ask another question, John? Can you tell us, since American supposed bombing of ISIS, what effect does that have? Because obviously the intent was to push back ISIS, and the Americans are saying it's necessary, but I don't understand how they're able to expand. Are they helping ISIS or pushing them back?
Okay, let's be frank and honest, okay? This whole coalition that was just suddenly started by, it's funny who was in the coalition, United States, England, France, right? And then Turkey. No, Turkey did not join the coalition, but Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, all the countries that have been accused and been proven in the United Nations by many reports to have supported terrorism. Saudi Arabia, the #1 exporter of terrorism in the world, want to fight ISIS in Syria. It's a joke. It's a public relation. So call it whatever, smoke screen. We know that the United States has used it throughout the last 2-3 years. We know that the Amir, Khalifa al-Mu'mineen, who's right now running ISIS, was in prison in Bughraib in Iraq, was released in 2008. He became the head of, at that time, the Islamic State of Iraq only. In 2010, his first day in the job, bombed over 40 mosques of Shiites, play different mosques and different souks and different marketplaces in his first day at the job. So these people have been used by the United States as a pretext today to violate Syrian airspace. And we know they violated Syrian airspace. Have they got rid of ISIS? Believe me, ISIS has gotten stronger in some areas. And the only place they're losing ground is when they're fighting the Syrian army. But that pretext is very important. Why does the United States want to violate Syrian airspace? To eventually have a no-fly zone. What happened in Libya? No-fly zone. And then who took over? Al-Qaeda. What happened in Iraq before they invaded Iraq? A no-fly zone north, a no-fly zone south. For a few years, they strengthened the Kurds and the Shiite, and they came and invaded Saddam. Same thing they will attempt to do in Syria. They will never succeed to do it in Syria. No-fly zone in the south, and that's why Israel, a few days ago, just bombed Quneitra, okay? And they've been, they're supporting the terrorists, the jihadists. Why? Because those jihadists never have they ever say, we want to fight Israel, we want to fight Turkey. So they're like, they're soldiers, they're US boots on the ground. They're not really trying to get rid of them. They might want to limit them from growing too strong, but they want them to stay.
So it's basically the US proxies.
It's a proxy.
On the ground, it's a proxy
It's
war
a proxy.
by US and whatever.
ISIS is gaining more sympathizers. That's what it looks like from the West when they're bombing them. That's what it looks like.
Well, we also know that as of last September, another 650 tons of weapons, U.S. weapons, were sent to Syria for the supposed opposition, which most of it has ended up in the hands of ISIS.
Thank you for asking that. This is a very important point we need to talk about. Since the beginning of this, until today, President Obama insists on arming what he calls moderate terrorists. I call them moderate terrorists, so he calls them moderate rebels. You can't be a rebel. Imagine some groups here called the Free American Army, and they start being supported by countries against the United States. How can they be called rebel or freedom fighters? The United States government will crush them. You can't have an army inside a country against your own army. So when you call them rebels or moderate or terrorists, guess where all that cash and weapons and tens of thousands of pounds of weapons have entered? And we have the logs. I mean, in Washington Post have released many times about dozens United States jets and Saudi cargo planes, army cargo planes, who have filled with tens of thousands of pounds of weapons from Zagreb airport in Yugoslavia or from Libya and landed in Ankara and Turkey. So this is not a secret. All these people fighting in Syria, they have heavy artillery. Where did this heavy artillery come from? From US and NATO. Nothing enters Syria without the knowledge of the CIA, believe me, my friend. So the question is, you alluded to arming. These people who have been receiving money and arms till today, and
training.
And
right.
training, they're all leaving the ranks because there's no such thing as moderate. There is no such thing as Free Syrian Army. They're a bunch of thugs and thieves, okay, who eventually, when the money cuts out, they go join ISIS. They're all right now fighting in the ranks of ISIS. All the weapon that ISIS have is American-made weapons. Ask yourself, either America giving it to them straight, or they're giving it to so-called moderate rebels who are either selling them or joining the ranks. So there is no moderate rebels. We need to stop supporting anybody in Syria other than the Syrian army, period.
Yes, you're on the air. Rametsek. Haretzes.
جناب قوسين
Rametsek.
مساء الخير.
مساء النور حبيبي.
عندي سؤال. كل العرب نيشنز يكون سني شيعي ISIS here and there. هذول كلهم عم بيقروا نفس القرآن وعم بيروحوا نفس الجامع. كيف صاروا عم بيقتلوا بعضهم؟ فيك تفسر هالشغلة لابي؟
طيب حبيبي, بس I'm going to translate it in English because it won't be fair to speak Arabic on an Armenian American
Once
TV.
you translate the question also.
Okay, I will translate the question. What he's saying, all these Arab countries, they all predominantly go pray in the same mosques. Why are they killing each other? My friend, I guarantee you, not even 1 per 10,000 of these Arab countries are fighting each other. When you have 23 million in Syria, if you count the number of Syrians who are fighting, aside from the Syrian army, you'll find that about 50 to 100,000 Syrians. There's maybe another 100,000 foreigners. But what's that percentage of the population? It's nothing. It's 1 per 100. If I'm sitting unemployed and you come and give me $5,000 and a weapon and tell me, go fight for your neighborhood, I promise you I'm going to give you this and that. So the fight is not against the Quran or the Bible. They never really brought the Bible, and that's why they're burning churches. No. They're burning churches and ransacking churches in Aleppo, in Kasab, because Turkey tells them so. Because Turkey has economic interest in the region. It's all about what do you want from Syria. Do you really want, as the Islamic State, if the ISIS succeed in Syria, do you think there will be left one Muslim Sunni who lives in Syria? They'll be out before the Christians leave, okay? And they will not invade Turkey. That's why Turkey is feeding them, because they know what territory they can stay. To destabilize Syria, to destabilize Iraq, and eventually Lebanon. That's it. There's not a fight between Shiite and Quran and Muslim and Sunni. Believe me, it's not. They never brought the Quran and have a discussion against it and then they end up fighting. No, it's about politics. It's about economics.
It's a proxy war.
Proxy war, yes.
Hi, Rametsek.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry, but my opinion is a little bit against your opinion, because when the war started back in 2011, it started by minority and their personnel, their family was jailed by the government, and they were started without any outsider help. So I would like to know, what was Mr. Bashar doing at that time? He didn't took advance and stop those people, not killing them, but find some solution about them.
Okay.
But it's wrong when you say that the war started to help with the outsider. The war started with the minority, people are dying hungry, and the Bashar around are even inhuman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, in 2011, there was no war in Syria. In 2011, the crisis began in Syria. Okay, the war happened when the foreign invaded Syria. Before that, there was no war. Before that, there were snipers, yes. If I may bring to your attention, what happened in Kyiv and Independence Square back in February of 2013, the world rushed, and the West made a point that it was that president, Yanukovych, and his troops who have killed all these troops. And immediately he had to leave office. They did the same thing they tried to do the same thing with Syria. My friend, let me tell you something. In the first 6 months of this crisis, A lot of people tell you the Syrian army killed its own people. The Syrian army is made up of 70% Sunnis. So who are they killing and why are they killing? If I tell you in the first few months there were more security forces, more policemen, and more army men killed than protesters, I will be telling you the truth and have evidence of that. There is no evidence that the army killed people because they would not shoot at protesters. That's what Al Jazeera and CNN was telling us, that these policemen were killed because they refused to shoot at peaceful protesters. We believe this lie because we're so ignorant to believe such a thing when the Syrian people are all Syrians. Why would a Syrian Sunni shoot a Syrian Sunni in Homs? But in one day in Homs, 20 policemen were shot, killed, when they were unarmed because there was a presidential decree for policemen not to carry weapons to protect the protesters. No one was against the protesters, but the protesters themselves. They were shooting at both sides, and this sniper theory has happened in many places before, and it have taken down a lot of government before. And the last was what happened in Kiev. And if you remember, there was a German television show that proved clearly, and aired in April of 2014, it clearly proved that the shooting was coming from the back where the protesters were supposed to have been there. So, you know, let's leave the stories that you hear on CNN to CNN audience, and let's be frank, and let's have an open mind, and let's hear the other point of view. I am not saying that the Syrian army or the Syrian military or the Syrian security forces have not committed mistakes. No, sir, I'm not saying. Of course, in the time of when Rodney King incident happened, 50 black men were killed in 2 days in Watts, okay? The media could have played it. White cops killing black men. No, they were killed by the army, by the way. But nothing happened. Why? Because, you know, they put a lid on it. In Syria, of course, if someone attacking a police station, the policeman has to defend himself. And Daraa, 3 days, it was March 18, when 2 ministers came, when the first 2 only protesters were shot. 2 ministers that Bashar Assad sent to Daraa to take condolences and met with the family and told them these are our kids, and Bashar Assad considered them their kids, and they made them martyrs. When you make someone a position of martyr in Syria, you get a lot of importance. You become a high status. You get a house, money for the rest of your life. Your kids get education and foreign schools. So if we wanted to kill these people, we would not put them to the status of martyrs. But what happened when these 2 ministers left? I'm telling you, March 18, 2011, the palace, the judicial palace, one of the oldest, big, huge building in Syria, was lit aflame with all this police cars. Someone wanted to start a war in Syria, but it wasn't the Syrian army. The Syrian left, I have to go back, I'm sorry we're going back that far, but they left Daraa for 1 month to let it cool off. What happened when we came in? A 2 days fight out of the Umri mosque. 2 days fight. They had weapons, they were sniping at policemen from a mile away. And there was a 2-day fight in Daraa. So where was no weapons? Yes, there was weapons. So we know what happened. Syrians at least know what happened. Outsiders, they still want to believe whatever they want to believe, that's fine. But we know, we put our full support behind the president who never let go of his duties. He has a duty to protect all Syrians, all cities, and he's living up to his duties. It's not an easy job, but if he was a coward, he would have run away like many presidents did. But he's fighting, still fighting, and we will not let Syria go unless it's free of all these mercenaries.
And if I can interject something also, it would be noteworthy at this point to let the gentleman also know that after 2001, after the 9/11 incident took place, General Wesley Clark, a United States general, was at the Pentagon, and somebody there revealed to him a plan that the United States had to topple 7 countries in 5 years.
Absolutely.
And Syria was on that list. So when we say the people started it, maybe the people were involved, but they were certainly, I believe, manipulated by the West and by the plan that they had to overthrow these governments. And they succeeded so far in doing it in Iraq, in Libya, and there's they have Iran is still on the list. Sudan,
they did. Actually,
yeah, they did Sudan. Yes. So there's a video that maybe when we actually upload this, we can add Wesley Clark's video so you can see for yourself that this is not just some civil unrest. There is a plan to overthrow and to topple, basically to stir up the Middle East for Western interests.
Right.
We're going to take one more phone call and then we're going to go in detail. Ara Metzek.
Ara Bedros.
Parevsiz.
Ուրեմն խոսի։
Այո, Ara Metzek, խոսեցեք։
Ուրեմն Bedros նրա հյուրին ասածը շատ ճիշտ էր։ Թուրքիան որ օգտագործեց իր բոլոր ավակայի երազները, որ ինքը ունենա այդ իր պարտներին հետ, հրյային հետ միասին, այդտեղը բոլոր իշխե այդ շրջանի մեջը։ Եվ ասոր մեջը դժբախտաբար ներ Ամերիկան ալգա, ներ Եվրոպան ալգա։
Անպայման։
Աստիգա ովևէ մեկադեմ ճիշտը խոսել են չպիտի վախտանց, ճիշտը պիտի խոսիս եւ գուզեի որ ես բոլոր արաբները քրիստոնյա, մուսուլման, ինչ որ գա Սուրիո մեջ խոս հավաքված ամենքը մեկ ցույցի պետք է լինեն Ամերիկային որ գեցուլ աս աղբոտ պատերազմը աս աղբոտ Թուրքիո քաղաքականությունը վարած է եւ մինչեւ հիմա իրենք դեռ ճիշտ մատլային ապրիլ 24-ը ջանցված էր, ցեղասպանությունը ջանցված էր։ Դեռ Շիջանստանեն նոր ցեղասպանություններ մեջտեղ բերին։ Ասիկա եթե քաղաքագիր բեդուկումը անեն է ուրեմն իրենպես վայրենի մարտիկները չորս կողմը միշտ պատրաստ է հատի օգտագործելու։ Բայց ամոթ է քաղաքագիր երկրի համար նոր ցեղասպանություններ կազմակերպել։
Շնորհակալություն։ Well,
yeah, okay, I'll try. That was pretty long.
Right.
Basically, he's stating that Turkey and Israel have used their resources to try to pull this plan off, and that basically he is saying everything you said is very accurate and right, and he wishes that people here in the West would stand up and do whatever they have to stop this, because there are now, we had our genocide, but now new genocides are happening as a result of this, and by those people, and the West is involved, but it's an initiative of Turkey and Israel for their gains.
Since we have this Turkey coming up every conversation, every question, Turkey is coming up, since it is a recognized terrorist state by us, by the Armenians, by Syrians now. What's stopping the Syrian government to recognize the Armenian genocide in public and make a public announcement? It's a demand to stop the genocide of Syrians and bring up the historic genocide that took place. And it was Syria that opened the doors. It was not any other country, but Syria that opened the doors for the Armenians. Syria that allowed Armenians to open churches, schools, keep our language, keep our culture. It was Syrian people that we appreciate, and it's the same people that saved the Armenian race during 1915. Now they're under the attack. Why wouldn't President Assad, the lion of Middle East, take the stand?
You believe me, we're very close to do it. And I think it just doesn't want to be sounding like it's a reaction to what's happening today. You know, if you come in after 100 years and you decide, okay, we're gonna, I think it's coming any day now, in my opinion. And I think it would be great if it can be done on the 100th-year anniversary. I wish not just Syria, I wish the whole world on the 100th day, on April, this coming April. We see it from everybody. I just don't think the Syrians need to do it now, because they will do it, and I wish they would, but I think they've been hesitant to not show it like it's a reaction to what happened to Syria. This is a much bigger issue than a reaction. Everything that's happening to the Syrians should not be the cause of what had happened to the Armenians. Right. And I think it will in due time. When Syria is healthy enough and doesn't need to show that, you know, I'm getting back at you for doing what you've done. Right. And the Syrian, you know, I praised whether Bashar Ja'fari or Bashar Assad or all the foreign, you know, ministry for their pause, for their way of handling this crisis. Right. We don't react. We don't go up in arms. We don't swear up and down. We don't cuss people. We don't attack people. We're a peaceful nation. Syria is a peaceful nation. The Syrian army is a peaceful army, is there to protect the Syrian civilians. We don't try to invade or revenge. Okay, we're just trying to have peace. But this point, well taken, and I think the Syrian government has debated it many times, and the only thing that is holding them back is not to look. It would lose its effect to do it like a reaction.
A few days ago, I think it was the Grand Mufti that announced something similar.
Yes, and it was actually put on a big mosque and a big church.
That religious man is a holy man, regardless of what religion.
Amazing man.
He's a truly holy man that has stuck by the people and spoken the truth.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what religion he is, he's proven that he is.
He's a Syrian. He's a Syrian first before anything. Correct.
Saying that, I would like to let me answer one more phone call. I want to go to Kesab. Okay. Hi, Rametsek.
Ayo.
Ayo.
Aslında öyle lafıyla bir zaman kitapı asrafı teala lafıyla bu başarı niyetlemiş. Yem kizi başarı Suriye'den pangaval. Asrafı voriyet gözü.
Ayo.
Vor asrafımların lafın çırleserek tali bu besi har aslında sizler izler. Amen. Buradaki baytun babasına çıksa başarı laf gidiyor lafın.
Okay.
Rami Syria, amen azım kovası.
Şunu ragalı için.
Syria valla amen kovası. Amen giden lafın ove.
Şunu ragalı için.
Biznes var. Afer lafı. Biz afer var. Hayır bir gam. Giden gazarken yere hedden. Niş.
Hayır.
Ben bir sahan ki Amerika'sından bırak.
Şunu ragalı için. Hayır, Rametsek.
Sireni yakbayla Bedros Hajian. Hayne yelgu barov. Hayreno patadre por mezer haskan. Kanere por chem haskan. Bayçat siro kuzemol. Yevhurin yevdes.
Patadren kamikani khoskayere.
Հիմա արդեն պիտի խոսենք քիչ հայերենով։
Հիմա քիչ հայերեն պիտի խոսենք։ Երկու երացան եւս արդեն հայերեն պիտի խոսենք քիչ։ Այո, գլսենք ցեզ։
Այո, Փայրգուն, ինչպես եք։
Լավ, Փարքասո։
Փարքասո, գռնանք հարցում արցնել ընկեր Պետրոսին հյուրին։
Հրամեցեք։
Ընկեր Պետրոս Փայրգուն, ինչպես եք։
Լավ, Փարքասո։
Հյուրին գռնամ հարցում արցնել։ مساء الخير.
مساء النور.
يا ضيف الكرام.
أهلين.
سؤالي أنت حيث العالم المؤيد. نحن شعب السوري الأرمن كلهم مؤيدين.
الله يخليك.
أخوي سؤالي البشار الأسد 14 محافظة كم محافظة عم بقدر يحمي بس عم بقدر يحمي لاذقية طرطوس ودمشق بقية 13 محافظات خاصة حلب الأرمن كلهم مؤيدين عليها لا التسليم محاصر سؤالي إنه كيف بدك تجاوبني على السؤال
اوكي حبيبي اول شيء هذا العلم مع احترامي لك يعني مش العلم المؤيد
Why don't you translate his question first?
I'm going to translate the question. He said you're wearing the supporting flag, meaning the supporting of the government, and he support the government as well. But he's saying that Bashar Assad there's 14 provinces in Syria. How many does he have, and what about the rest of the provinces? Two corrections before I answer the question. This is not the mu'ayyid or the supporting flag versus the opposing flag. No, this is the Syrian flag, the one and only. Nothing else is the Syrian flag. So we should all be wearing this regardless of our opposition. There's a lot of oppositions in Syria, political opposition that we respect so much, and they will never take that flag down. This doesn't mean to be against the political party. That means you be against the country.
Can I make one clarification?
Please.
The other flag that there is, I want to make it public, is the New World Order choice flag. It's not the Syrian choice flag. Let's put it straightforward.
Never been.
That belongs to the New World Order, and it was premeditated, and it was amended way before.
And believe me, Bedros, all these young people who supposedly are revolting, they've never seen this flag in their lives. Right. I have never seen it until now. I mean, so it's a creation. Again, it's manufactured for us, just like they did in similar countries in Libya. They brought in the older flag. They did the same thing, a web page like they did in Egypt. They did the revolution against Bashar Assad. The name of the website was created in 2010. So they set the stage just like they did in Egypt, like they did in Libya. And thank God, they failed in Syria. And the reason because they failed in Syria, they succeeded in Egypt. In other words, when the Muslim Brotherhood took over Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, and about to take over in Syria, and the Turkish dream would have become the reality, meaning take Muslim Brotherhood, let them rule over from the whole Arab world, The Syrian government and Syrian army that stood in their face and showed their true colors. And finally, the Egyptians realized they were not even 1 year in power. They realized what they're up against. And they revolted, another revolution, a true one, and brought back the army. And believe it or not, the only other person who's fighting terrorism today, other than Bashar al-Assad, is the new president of Egypt, Sisi. In other words, back to the answer, is Bashar al-Assad protecting? Bashar al-Assad is not. Bashar al-Assad is the president. There is something called Syrian Arab Army, my friend. The Syrian Arab Army have paid 55,000 lives. 55,000 lives. The majority of death in Syria, that if you want to call civilians or foreign fighters or army, the Syrian army has paid the biggest price, more than civilians. And this is by opposition own statement. The Observatory for Human Rights, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is an opposition, have put the 150,000, and 55,000 of those were Syrian army. Those Syrian army have died to save Syria. Yes, they're more stronger in certain areas. When you have 900-kilometer open borders with Turkey, and Turkey is not living up to its responsibility, but on the contrary, they're allowing these foreign jihadists to flock in. We can kill so many. We kill 500, 2,000 enter the next day. We have limited resources. As Syrian army, we have limited number of, but these foreign jihadists are endless. They can come at you in the millions. So what happened is Bashar al-Assad is not protecting certain cities and not protecting the rest. And I give you one huge example. When Bashar al-Assad would ask, what about Aleppo? He said, how am I going to come into Aleppo? How is the Syrian army going to come from Aleppo? Can they come from the north? No. Can they come from the east? Also no, because that's Raqqa. And that's where, you know, the heaviest positioning of ISIS. So where are they going to come from? The south. And that's why it was a must to clear Hama and Homs before they entered Aleppo. And as soon as they cleared Hama and Homs, they entered Aleppo from the south. And believe me, my friend, today as we speak, Aleppo is encircled. Aleppo, who was invaded by NATO, is completely encircled. And now that's why you hear NATO countries and Western propositions, let's have a no-fly zone, let's have a ceasefire. Why? Because they're getting encompassed. Just like Homs was, and Homs fell in days, so will Aleppo. The people of Aleppo will rise. Yes, it was destroyed, unfortunately. Yes, a lot of people have lost their lives. But the Syrian army was not short of paying price, heavy price to save Aleppo. And they will save it. And Syria, piece by piece, it will all come back to be the Syria that we all know it. Will not allow a single piece to be lost.
So, saying that, I would like to talk about the situations of the people a little bit, and I'm going to give my the word to Ara manoogian. It's very important because same Turkey allowed the invasion of Kesab last year by March, and they occupied it for 60 days, I believe, until the liberation, since they wanted to start a war in Iraq, and ISIS left. They stole everything that is in Syria, that is Armenian populated area, Armenian village, ancient Armenian village, Kesab. They stole everything that people worked for. They destroyed the whole houses and left just like that. My question is, we have false information that how many people died. And we have, apparently, I'm going to give the word to Ara.
So let me cover this really quick, as quick as I can, because our time is limited, and I think we want to hear from people calling in also if they have questions. We have people on the ground in Հայերեն ալկխոսիմ, բայց լավ, այնտեղ Սուրիայի մեջը ունենք որոշ անձերը, որ մենք կապի մեջ ենք, եւ անձեր կան այնտեղ, որ ամիջապես գտնվում են Քեսաբի շրջանից in the Takia, and իրենց արդեն դեպիալներ կստանանք, անընդհատ կստանանք, ամեն քանի շաբաթ նորություններ, եւ հույսով եմ, որ շուտով պիտի կարողանանք վիդեոյով interview հավաքենք իրենց հետ եւ ցույց կտանք ձեր ծրագիրին կամ մի ցեվով կհասցնենք ժողովրդին։ Այս վերջինս, երբ որ Քեսաբը, երբ որ մտան terroristները, այստեղ մենք լսած ենք, սկիզբեն լսած ենք, որ մահեր եղեր են, մարդ կա, որ սպանվեցավ, մի քանի հոգի սպանվեցավ, հետո ասեցին, որ ոչ մեկը սպանվեցավ հայերու կողմերից եւ այլն, բայց մենք դեպիալներ ունենք, որ 88 հայ սպանվեցավ այդ ժամանակին։
Այս տվյալները իրական
Այս իրական տվյալներն են եւ մենք հիմա քանի անուններ ալունեմ սպանողներուն եւ իրենց ինչպես սպանվեցան եւ այլն, բայց ես հիմա վիստանակ ցուցակա միջապես անուններով երբ պատահեց որ օրը ինչ ցևով ինչքան որ կնանք հավաքել եւ այդ ապրանքը որ գտնվում էր իրենց տուներու մեջ
իրենց ունեցվածքը
ինչ որ ունեին անգողիններ, տեղաշորեր, ամեն ինչ տարել են Թուրքիա եւ այսօր Թուրքիայի խանութները օգտագործած ապրանքի խանութները լեցված են այսօր գնաց սառնարան վերցնես որ քեսաբեն քողացած է $5 Թուրքիայի մեջ եւ թուրքերը գարնեն մեծ հաջողով գարնեն աժան ապրանք է լավ ապրանք է
Պաստորեն ես բացատրեմ որ այդ ապրանքները որ քեսաբի մեջի ժողովուրդեն դուներու մեջ են կողծվեցավ այսօր Թուրքիայի մեջ գրնաս երթալ այդ մարդու ապրանքը այդ ընտանիքի խոսքի օրինակ սառնարանը գրնաս $5 առնել այդ էս էլ գուցե Թուրքիայի մեջ եւ հետաքրքիր է որ Թուրքիո կառավարությունը թույլ գուտագորացի they have stolen the belongings of Armenians from Kesab they've taken it to Turkey Turkey has allowed it open market and sell it in Turkey. Doesn't this mean an aggression from Turkish government on Syrian people since Kesab is under Syrian territory?
Not just Kesab. I mean, Kesab, of course, has a special place in all of our hearts, especially in the Armenian hearts. But Kesab is a Syrian land, and so is Aleppo.
Right.
At least, and this is official numbers, 1,200 factory in Aleppo, 1,200, I'm talking 1,200 factory, was not just stolen, was dismantled. The equipment, I'm talking about a huge factory. This was one of the biggest.
I've seen the trucks delivering it.
Yes, and they're delivering it. We showed it maybe one time on your show.
Right.
And they're sold in front of the, under the watching eyes of the Mr. Erdogan's government, okay, the Muslim Brotherhood government. They're punishing the Aleppo people, Christians and Muslims, for standing with their government. That's what happened. Because from day one, if Aleppo has really ignited, it would have been what they wanted to done fast. The two big cities, especially Aleppo, that they were hoping that it will come up. On the contrary, pro-rallies every single weekend. Every single weekend, hundreds of thousands. They were upset. They were disappointed. Why these people are not listening to what they need to be doing? So the minute they got in these foreign jihadists, the first thing they did, they took one family, okay, and they slaughtered them in front of public TV.
Right.
And this was one of the biggest tribe in Aleppo.
Right.
And from that point on, of course, they ruled, because at that time, you wouldn't slaughter. That was the day when things became, beheading started. In other words, they stole everything in Aleppo, from Christian, from Armenians, and they sold it in Turkey that's what Turkey wanted.
Right now it's winter, no heating. People are freezing. We have news from Kesab. People are freezing there.
Yeah, basically, here's what happened was, once they returned to their homes, the people of Kesab, for one thing, when this all happened, there was each family received $200 or $300.
You're getting the news from where?
I'm getting the news directly from Kesab and Latakia.
Okay, and there are facts.
These are facts. These are facts. So they received each family received $200 to $300.
Where did the $300 come from?
This came from, I believe, it was an Arab country, basically. Armenians from an Arab country sent money over, and it was used for food. That's good for 1 month of food, basically, at the current prices. The other thing that we have been able to discover is that there's a Syrian Armenian Relief Fund, SARF, which is here in Glendale, and they have collected $900,000, which they transferred to the Catholicos of Antilyas, Ara I, under his control. And as we know, SARF was created to help the Syrians all over Syrian Armenians all over Armenia. All over Syria. But there was specific fundraisers for Kesab. They were doing Save Kesab, hashtag Save Kesab. Kesab has not received any of this money yet. And I say this more confidently today than I would have a month ago, because we specifically tried to trace down people and interviewing people of what did you receive from this, and the leaders who are there on the ground. And that money has not made it to Kesab. There have been attempts by, and I got this from inside of SARF, that they were asking Aram Gatoligos for an accounting of where this money is, and they've refused to receive that. Now, whether they have, this was a month ago, that particular item. But the people on the ground who we have there have actually called Aram Gatorigos, and in fact, they sent me all of his phone numbers, including his personal office number, and he doesn't return calls, and he knows why they're calling. SARF has also been contacted by this person from Syria, not from here, and they're not responsive either. But SARF has so far collected $900,000, plus there was that $57,000 that the schools got together for the people. So the people are in need of this money now. I mean, I'm not sure how much is really for Kesab, but Kesab has not received what Kesab should have received, and we have given money specifically for Kesab with the big Save Kesab campaign. So I think that really SARF needs to be, I mean, we're here in Glendale, they're in Glendale, so I think that this is something that you and I also need to address and actually contact SARF and see what reaction we can get from them as far as an explanation of where this is, because they're starting to do another fundraiser. There's an event coming up, I guess, for SARF, but the question is, where is the money? Who is getting this money? What is it being used for? Because if it's being used for Kesab, and the people of Kesab, the people are saying we don't have it, and the people are sleeping on their stone floors in their house. They have their houses, windows are gone, not even cellophane or something to cover the windows for the cold air, and it's very cold there. It's winter. We're in winter now, and these people have returned, but they've returned with nothing, and they have not been getting any assistance from the West.
A few phone calls. Hi, Ara Metzek.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening, guys. I welcome you to every family of the whole world, and I just want to tell you guys, this is not about the money, This is about the horror and the politics, because it's the same equal. I'm sorry for the thing, but it's same thing, I just want to tell you guys, I'll start this war in Syria, because Syria with Iran is together. They having the military bases and the stuff against Israel, and no one can stand about about Israel. But
right.
It's not about Israel too. This is about, like last week, Bedros was talking with his old program.
Mark
that was another thing. It's it's about the Antichrist. It's about Antichrist. It's not about the money. It's not about the political. It's not about the kids that they died they assassinating in Armenia, but by Russian soldiers. It's about who's after them, and before them. We have to stand up. It's not about the war.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
All right.
I'm going to get some phone calls. Get the people talking. Ara Metzek. Ողջույն ձեզ։
Պարոն Պետրոս, երկու հարց ունեմ։ Նախ Ասիսի կողմնորոշումը Հաֆեզաձադի քաղաքականության վերաբերյալ եւ հետո Սիրիայի հյուսիսում գտնվող քրդերի ինքնավար կամ անկախ իշխանության մասին ինչ կասի ձեր հյուրը։
What would you say about the Kurdish independence on the...
Oh, wow. Okay. It's a good question you brought up, and I'm going to state this for the first time. I never like to talk about...
because they were fighting against the army last week, right?
Yes. Look, the whole story about Kobani, or we call it Ras al-Arab, Ain al-Arab, Ain al-Arab, that was just making it, again, another public relation exercise, making the Kurds to be, the heroes and, Goliath and David. Eventually, any Kurd, any Syrian, whether he's Kurdish or Arab or Christian or Armenian, calls for any piece of Syria to be taken or to be independent, he's not a true Syrian, okay? With all due respect. Those separatists are no different than these same Daesh, the same ISIS. We don't want, will not allow, not now, not tomorrow. The U.S. is obviously know what they want. They want a Shiite corridor in the bottom, they want a Sunni in the middle, and they want Kurds on top to divide and conquer. This is not a new geography. This is a lesson we know it from A.A.C.O and beyond and before. And just like before the French left, we have the great Syrians who refused their own territory back then. The Druze could have had their own, the Alawite could have had their own, the Sunnis could have had their own. They refused. And they said, we will not. Syria is to remain Syria. So I am against those separatists. They need to relax. We're on the same war against the fascists, against the West-backed terrorists. But eventually you are Syrian, you've got to remain Syrian, and Syria is capable of regaining all its territory and everybody under the same flag.
I received a text from one of the people trying to call in. They just want to remind me that we should reiterate this very important point that we just discussed in Armenian for Armenian viewers, because it is very significant.
Next time around, because we won't. I mean, there are lots of Syrian Armenians and Syrians. I would say Armenians in the greater United States, all over the world that lived, it was at least our duty to collect funds for all Syrians, because in return, what they've taken care of us.
Absolutely.
And we haven't even taken that initiative yet. That's very, I'm saying it publicly, that's very embarrassing for us. We have been so self-centered and selfish, and we haven't even thought about those people that opened their doors, protected our families, protected our forefathers during the genocide. Even we have forgotten about the king's letter to the Sunni nation, specifically saying that those are our people, you need to feed them. About the Armenians, we've forgotten all these incidents and realities that taken place. So we're talking about fundraisings and fundraisings that has taken place. I think we needed to see an organization that would have raised funds for all Syrians.
And that's a good question. Besides Armenia, what funds are there out there, Johnny, that are helping all Syrians? Are there any funds that people can donate to?
No, honestly, especially from the United States, there isn't any. We're not allowed to. It's against all laws to communicate with the Syrian government or Syrian army. Or through even our churches. We cannot send anything to Syria from the United States. That's a fact. Now, are there any places? Yes, a lot of countries are, people in Syria are not hungry, they're not starving. In certain areas they might be, don't get me wrong. Syria is capable of taking care of its own. Believe me, when we ask them, what do you need? Do you need food? No. Do you need the clothes? No. Yes, in certain areas. But what they need is our support. To stand with them, to let them know that they're not alone, that we're fighting their fight, and we're thinking about them day and night. They don't need food. Syria is still rich with its own people. There's still no people sleeping. In Damascus, you won't believe. I was just there a few months ago. There is nobody in the streets, hardly. In a war, they're making it look like civil war. 7 million supposedly were displaced inside of Syria. They're all living either in schools, in hostels. Go to Latakia. The people who call me a civil war. 2 million Sunnis have moved into Latakia. At least 1 million in Latakia and another 500,000 in Tartus. These are what we call Alawite nation, right? So people are living, people are taking care of each other. Syrians are good people, good-hearted.
So if I understood this correctly, then really what we can do is not collect money for Syria, but actually stop our own government in the United States from attacking Syria and to doing the right thing, because presently we, the Americans, who have representatives in Congress that are voting for war in Syria, that are voting to send hundreds of tons, thousands of tons of weapons, money, training to Syria, we have to put our feet down and say enough is enough. Եթե ժողովուրդ որ հասկանան հայերենով, եթե գուզես օգնել Սուրիայի այսօր, ասարֆը որ կա, չի կարող օգնել։ Առաջին հերթով բանը անօրինավոր ծև է, իրավունք ալ չունենք դրամ ուղարկել նորասավ, դրամ իրավունք չունենք ուղարկել։ Գիտեմ, բայց եթե չի հասներ այնտեղ չի հասներ։ Առաջին հերթով. We will see the facts, but the fact is, իրականությունը այն է, որ եթե Ամերիկայի մեջ կփնակես, իրավունք ունես քու ով որ կներկայացնե քեզ կոնգրեսի մեջ, Washington մեջ, մեր այս տարածքին Adam Schiffն է։ Պետք է քու ոդկը շատ բինցեվով գայնես եւ ասե որ գեհերիկ է։ ինքը Adam Schiff ամիջապես զենքեր կուղարկի ամեն անգամ որ պետք է բանը ընտրեն ինչ պիտի անեն Adam Schiff-ը միշտ այո գասե Adam Schiff-ը ուզում է որ Սուրիայի նախագահան այսօրվա որ ինքը ընտրված է օրինավոր ձևով ինքը ուզում է որ թափալվի ուզում է որ հանեն իրեն ինքը ամեն ինչ կան է մենք կարող ենք մեր ուժերով մեր ցայնով փոփոխություններ տան Trump չես կարող գործածել այն տեսակ փոփոխություններ ինչպես որ Ամերիկայի մեջ մեր իրավունքները կարող ենք պահանջենք եւ ասենք որ գեհերիք է զենք մի ուղարկել օգնություն մի ուղարկել Սուրիայի terroristներուն
We have come to the conclusion of our program. Thank you, Johnny, for coming.
Thank you.
One more time.
My pleasure.
Your precious time. You're fighting for the rights of the people.
Thank you.
And as an Armenian community, we haven't done anything, to be honest with you.
Thank you for having me on the show.
We should really be ashamed of ourselves for the 3 years. The Armenian community should have stand up on its feet, fight for Syria. Syria that saved Armenians in the past. And we're never going to forget that. We're going to be next to Syria. And next to the lion, he's our lion. Շնորհակալ ենք Արա որ եկաք։ Ավելի փաստեր գուզենք տեսնալ։
Այո, մենք այդ փաստերը կհավաքենք եւ ամիջապես կիմանանք ինչ
ճիշտ եղություններ թողնվի, որ ժողովրդի մեջ
այո, եւ մենք կրնանք ինտերնետի միջոցով կցնենք այն անունները, քանի զոհեր եղել է եւ ինչ ծավով, որտեղ պետք է իմանանք ինչ է իսկական կատարվում է, որտեղ այստեղ ուրիշ բաներ կսեն։
Շնորհակալություն սիրելիներ, միջև քաշապատ անոնք որ հերացանի վրա են գուզեն Ջանիին հետ խոսիլ, հոսքը սպասենք մի քանի վայրկյան, միջև քաշապատ ասված ցեցել։